I'd say I do in an informal way now, but I think early on I hated it. Let's just put that out there. I don't know many people who love it. And it was so awkward turning up to an event on your own. You'd feel like this, and also the imposter, right? Can you even call yourself an interior designer? I mean, I've only just started and and through the meeting of those other people, you work out who your tribe are. When I started, I sort of felt there was a little bit of a closed book. I decided to be brave and go and ask people to go for coffee and chat, and some people were great, others you just sensed there was a little bit of I don't want to share my supplier information but you'd find the one person, and Donna was my first to just go, here's all I know type of open, and it was like, how refreshing.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios. And I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues. And today I have a real treat for you. I'm not joined by 1, 2, but I'm joined by 3 amazing designers today. So I'd like to welcome Nerida Thorburn, Donna Allan, and Anna McMillan. How are you, ladies?
Hi there, good.
So today's podcast is all about the friendship that you 3 have and how you support each other in the design industry. And I like to start each episode by finding out what my guests can see out their window. So Nerida, can you tell me a little bit what you can see out your window, but maybe as well, where are you based and a little bit about your design studio?
Okay, sure. So I'm based in Freshwater on the northern beaches of Sydney, and I'm talking to you from my little home studio, which is a very small former bedroom in my home. It faces out over Freshwater Village. I'm on a little bit of a hill, so I've got a lovely view of the rooftops of Freshwater and a few nice palm trees in my front yard to enjoy.
And tell me a little bit about your studio.
Yeah, so it's relatively new. I've had my own business for about 3 years now. Second career for me. So I worked in another design studio for about 4 years before I started my own. And I work mostly on residential, or actually solely on residential jobs. And it's a mix of everything from new builds, big renovations, right through to sort of smaller decorative jobs and furnishing packages.
Awesome. So a real mixed bag. Yeah. And Donna, what about you?
Yeah.
I think you'll probably start to see some themes come through. I'm Northern Beaches as well. I'm in Clontarf. I've got a home studio, which, yes, was a former bedroom at one stage. Best thing about it is it's got a beautiful picture window facing south over Middle Harbour. So lots of great natural light throughout the day for the studio. And it's actually really quiet this Friday morning. No boats, no kayakers, but just a little bit of a breeze ruffling the water. And, I've got Bather's Pavilion over there beckoning me going, when's the cocktail coming?
And tell me a little bit about your studio.
Yep. I've been in business probably going on close to 15 years now. We focus on residential renovations, small to mid size. We work across Sydney and in the outskirts of Sydney. I started as a second career, a bit of a midlife crisis. and haven't looked back since.
And Anna, lucky last.
So I'm lucky like the girls. I'm based in Mossman, so on the north side of Sydney. I've got a studio at home, and I'm lucky to have a lovely view out across to palm trees and greenery. We've got lots of windows in this space, so like Donna's, it's very light and bright, which makes for a nice working environment. I didn't get the bedroom. I actually kicked the kids out of the media room and have taken over the media room at our house, which is fabulous, because it gives us space. I've got a team, and we can all come together in the space here. Yeah, so I started McMillan Design about 7 years ago. Like Donna and Nerida, a past career in sales and marketing. So this is my second career, and we focus on renovations, new builds, and decoration projects across Sydney, and then also a little bit out of Sydney. We do a few regional projects as well. So quite a nice mix of projects.
Yeah,
but all
awesome.
residential.
Oh gosh. Okay, so there's one theme that's obviously come up through all of you that you've just talked about. So this is a second career for all of you. Has that been a real kind of guiding for you? Did you kind of know, okay, I need to form some networking and get out there and kind of establish some relationships in the industry? Was that kind of something that really drove you all at the start?
I think mine was maybe a little bit different because I started earlier than the others. And I'll tell you, back then, the industry was not like it is today. It was very closed off. And you couldn't, I think there was the scarcity mentality, and people weren't interested or willing to share or get involved in whether it was the running of their business or even sharing resources or suppliers. So there were many years that it felt very hard to be a solopreneur in the industry.
I can imagine, because if you're looking, so Donna, you've been, 15 years, Anna, you're 7, Nerida 3. I would actually say they are kind of almost landmarks in terms of the timeline of how I see the evolution of the industry, especially for kind of either people who work in small studios or have maybe up to a team of 5. Like Donna, I can totally imagine how cold and isolating and just lonely it would have been in those early days. And then Anna, you've kind of have your own studio for, that 7-year mark, which is kind of similar to how, like, I've had my studio for like 6 years. So that 7-year mark, it's kind of like, there was a little bit, but like there was the beginnings of things kind of opening up. A lot of the design mentors that are out there at the moment, kind of, they all started around that time kind of thing. And then Nerida, you've almost come in at the sweet spot where kind of it's all starting to open up, and it's like, it's a much more friendly and inviting industry than when, the good old days of when Donna started. So it's really interesting that you all would have had a very different initial start to your businesses in that regard, because the industry has really changed over the last 10 years in terms of how we all work together and how we collaborate. And I think, as you mentioned, Donna, that scarcity mindset, that's really changed as well. And it's so lovely to see. So how did you guys all meet? Nerida, you take this one.
Okay. So, I met Donna actually when I was still studying, and I was at a trade show chatting to a fabric rep and just chatting about what I was doing and how I was new to the industry. And she asked where I lived, and she said, "Oh, there's this lovely designer that lives not too far from you. You should really reach out to her. She loves these sorts of fabrics as well, and I think you'll get on really well." So I just bravely gave Donna a phone call or sent her an email and asked if she'd meet up for a coffee, and we just hit it off. So Donna was, when I was studying, my go-to for, I need words of wisdom to help guide me through. So we just caught up every now and again for coffee. in those early years. And then when I launched and went out on my own, I signed up for a design retreat in Byron. And Donna happened to be going to that, and that's where I met Anna, and the three of us just hit it off and went out for cocktails one night,
Rest
and
is history.
that was the beginning of a lovely friendship.
Yeah, awesome. And so obviously that was a very organic kind of way that it started, which is really lovely, and then it's obviously solidified over kind of, you know, the relationship that you've built. How do you, and actually I'll talk to your style. So Nerida, you mentioned there that you had a similar style to Donna. Do all three of you have a similar aesthetic that you design to?
I think we have an overlap, but I don't think any of us are the same. So I think there is definitely a commonality with maybe the color palette and some of the styles, but I think we all branch it out into slightly different directions that makes it unique to each of us.
I think some of the similarity, Beth, is in the way we want to run our businesses, though, and that's where we get real, I guess, where the real power comes from this friendship and sharing with other designers as well, because it's not just about the design commonality and interest that we share, but we all want to run successful businesses, and you know that's a lot of what we share
and
too.
I find that really interesting because I think you know, the people you surround yourself with are the people who kind of, you know, like that's where you gain your knowledge and your expertise. Can you talk to me a little bit about, and Anna, I'll come to you on this one, what is the kind of guiding principles that you all have for your businesses? So for starters, it's a second career for all of you. What kind of has driven you to kind of make that leap? But then what knowledge have you brought from your previous careers that help you in your businesses as well?
Yeah, I think that's really important to think about, Beth, because you know I've come from a sales and marketing background, corporate career. We've all come out of successful corporate careers, and I think having come out of a big business that has process, has systems, and as much as you might not like all those systems and processes when you're in a corporate, you realize that they're really important to run a successful business. So I know I came to starting my own business and immediately wanted, having come out of also a collaborative working environment and now on my own, starting out my own, I wanted to find other like-minded people, firstly. So that sort of sense of collaboration was, you know, missing the company. Finding other people who might have been on the journey and were prepared to help share and shape our businesses together. So finding others that were in a similar starting point. Now, Donna had been in her business a lot longer, but was a fabulous in sharing her approach. We all were part of an interior design group that originally was through Business of Design, through Kimberly Seldon's. We gravitated to the principles of that, listening to podcasts, sharing information with each other around what we were learning from that. And I think that started to form the basis of some of the business principles that we, and there's a big group of us in Australia, have started to employ in our business. So it's helped us all get confidence around shaping our business, whether it's charging for a consultation. That seems like a no-brainer now, but back in when I was starting out, it's like, do you or don't you, and how much would you even charge? So I think that learning process and having a framework that we could all align to, or felt like we wanted to align to, really helped us, you know, grow and share, because we were wanting similar outcomes and a similar approach.
And I think like our design styles where there's commonality, but we also then vary out into our individual approach. Our approach to running our business is quite similar. So as Anna said, we do have very similar core principles, but we're able to then use the knowledge that we gain from each other and others in the industry to say, what's right for how we want to move forward. But it's the conversations that we're able to have, the depth and the truth that we can get to in those conversations that allows us to go, this is what's right for me, or this is how I can take that and mold it to fit the way that I want to run my business.
And I think that's a really interesting point. I was actually talking to another designer who's very new in the industry just this week, and she has signed up for some mentoring, and she was kind of like, it was great, and she kind of followed it like to the absolute everything. She was like perfect student, and then she kind of reflected on it. It was like, actually, that's not exactly right for my business. And so I think having a sounding board of designers around you that you can be really open and frank with. So I think it's really interesting. You know, Anna and Donna, you've both touched on it. It's obvious that your friendship is not just about cocktails and looking at pretty fabrics. There's obviously a lot of substance.
Yeah, there are a lot of cocktails.
And a few pairs of shoes.
But there's obviously a lot of substance to the conversations that you have, and the depth of the knowledge and the friendship that you have. That obviously really makes your 3 businesses a lot stronger. When it comes to those conversations around pricing and, like, you know, as you said, Anna, like when we would have started our studios, that whole charging for an initial consult, that was a real kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. Or even something like implementing something like a booking system where the client has to book in, that would have been really kind of like a hurdle that we wouldn't have necessarily thought we could ever get over. But how do you guys kind of go about, is it a really informal way? Do you just kind of, if you've got a question, do you ask each other? Or do you kind of try and give a bit of structure to you? Do you have a regular catch up? Do you, like, how have you found it's worked for you guys to keep the momentum going?
I think for the 3 of us, it's very informal. So, you know, what started with some formal parameters when I met Donna was through an interior design group, and we did used to meet face to face as a group and share. Someone would lead a topic for that session, and that was really, you know, really helpful. And then COVID hit and we couldn't meet face to face, so Donna and I started walking because we were in the 5K bubble sort of zone. So we would do walks, and so then it was very informal, but through that we just realized the depth of our independent knowledge, and then bringing that together, how much we could support each other, and then it's built, you know, from there. So I think it's definitely built. There was originally some structure, but then there's this informality. Nerida mentioned a sort of a business retreat conference where, you know, where I met Nerida. There was structure in that, but I think the real power comes through the informality around, you know, the question, hey, what have you got in your documentation package for, you know, disclaimers, or, you know, have you guys come across this challenge before? And so we just, you know, we catch up probably, well, there's a few times a month through informal, whether it's trade events, we get an invite, we'll say, you know, who's going to that? The fact that we all live locally is helpful, because it's like the one Uber picks the 3 of us up. So there's a lot of extra conversation that happens, you know, in transit places.
Yeah, and I think that's where the real gold generally is, kind of thing, like outside of those formal conversations and those formal, like, structured, you know, groups. You know, the real gold comes, you know, as you say, from the Uber conversation, or, you know, just, you obviously have an understanding of each of your businesses. You obviously also have an understanding of the type of businesses that you want to have. And I think that's quite crucial. You know, for some of you, it might be that you only want to work 3 days a week, or, you know, whatever it is that success means for you guys. You have an understanding of that. So when you're giving advice to each other, you have the right lens that you're putting it through. One of the things that I think, you know, is an evolution in our industry, the mindset of, it's, you know, there's plenty of work for everyone kind of thing, where, you know, you don't need to be worried about that. Was that ever something that, and maybe Nerida, you could talk to this as someone, you were, you know, the newest into the industry. Did you ever worry about, oh, like, are these guys my competition? Like, am I sharing my secrets? Or maybe I should address it to Donna. Donna, you've been in the earliest. I'd love to get both of your opinions on that. Like, Donna, did you ever go, oh, I don't want to, like, give all of these secret sauce away, especially because you have come into the industry when it wasn't as open book as it is now?
My little bit, I guess, back history. When I started, I made the very intelligent decision to start running a design business in the middle of the GFC, which, you know, it was tough going to find clients in that time frame. So I ended up doing a couple of additional jobs on the side, one of which was teaching at a design school, and I did that for just over 5 years. So the process of teaching was new to me at that stage, but I found that I actually really loved it because it was that connection with the students and the ability to bounce ideas off of each other. All of the students would have had a different background that they were bringing to the work that they were doing, and that they could share and demonstrate how that would fit within a design or a process for design. So that really got me thinking about what it means to collaborate and not to compete. And I thought that sort of formed the way that I wanted to move forward with my business. Anna alluded to the Business of Design group, and that was another one of those sort of watershed moments, if you will. I had attended a conference in the US that was a Business of Design conference, met a couple of designers there that worked across Canada and United States. And we developed a small group that we would connect on a monthly basis and share business information. And then Kimberly put a question out to say, we'd love to get the word about business design out to a broader community. Would you guys be interested in leading local groups to discuss business principles and process? So I took that on for Sydney, and that was the Business of Design group that Anna was talking about. And I think for me, that was really the start of when you could see designers that are just beginning, that had 5 years, that had 10 years, that had 15 years, come together and really want to support each other. And that was the point that I went, well, that's what it's about. You can't be closed. There's enough work for all of us. We're all bringing something different to our business, to our clients, to our designs. And I think that just cemented for me how important these types of relationships are.
And Donna, building on that, I think, one of the things that Kimberly Selden focuses on is raising the industry. She says, one designer at a time. And I think the reality is if we can all grow a bit and we can help others grow a bit, then the whole industry grows. And that means with our perceived value with clients, the prices we can charge, the work that will come our way. So if we can all grow, we're all better off, rather than just focusing on that, in the past maybe a scarcity mentality. Now that sense of plentifulness is just so empowering because we're all better off.
And it's a much nicer way to work when you're working surrounded by people that support you and lift you up, rather than always looking over your shoulder.
Totally. And I think it's such a lovely, I could not agree more with what you've just said, Anna. You've summed it up so nicely. But I think that is so true. I think, one of the things that comes up quite a lot in my conversations with designers is the way that clients don't fully understand what interior designers do, especially, if you're sitting, around a table and there's the architect, the engineer, the builder, they all seem to grasp what they do, but it's what exactly do you guys do? And that knowledge about what our industry does, and then the link to that is the value that we bring to a client. I think as an industry, we really, the more we do it, the better it is for everyone. And I think that, groups like informal groups like you guys have, and, more networking that you do, where you are really learning how to run a successful business so that when you go out to a client, it's a great experience for that client. And then that client's going to kind of say the word, I used an interior designer. It was a great experience. You should use an interior designer on your project, kind of thing. The flow on effects for all of us is so important. one of the things that you guys have talked about, kind of Kimberly Seldon's group and retreats and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys find like networking an integral part of your business?
I'd say I do in an informal way now, but I think early on, I hated it. Let's just put that out there. I don't know many people who love it, and it was so awkward turning up to an event on your own. You'd feel like this, and also the
totally.
imposter, right? Can you even call yourself an interior designer? I mean, I've only just started, and not just, no matter that you've had a successful career in another area. So there was that whole piece going on. But what the benefit of some of those formal groups or events, it gave you the opportunity to meet other people, and through the meeting of those other people you work out who your tribe are. And as Donna mentioned, and as you too, Beth, when I started, I sort of felt there was a little bit of a closed book. I decided to be brave and go and ask people, to go for coffee and chat, and some people were great, others you just sensed there was a little bit of I don't want to share my supplier information, but you'd find the one person, and Donna was my first, to just go, here's all I know type of open, and it was like, how refreshing, and then that builds. And then you start to attract those same people, and you share, they share. So I think the formal groups allow you to meet other people in a similar boat, and for me, we've met, the three of us have got a very broad network. It's not just the three of us. Yes, we are really tight, but I was at an event yesterday with a group of other designers who I know really well now, and we were talking about sharing some other information because there's really good trust that's developed, and that trust has come through attending retreats or doing that formal work together where there is some structure around it. So it can be both, but I think...
And you kind of got to keep going. Like the first one's always hard. And then I do think you find your tribe, and you just got to find one person who it's like, are you going to this one? Okay, like, can we meet beforehand and walk in together? Like, whatever it is to kind of get you into the routine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Give you the confidence.
And
Is
that kind of something that you've really... in terms of your businesses, you kind of mentioned going to events and all that kind of stuff, because I think sometimes designers, especially if you like work from home and you're just in your own little kind of world, you kind of get so busy that you kind of like, I don't have time for that and I don't have time for that. You guys obviously not maybe prioritize, but you guys obviously think it's important. As a new designer or someone who's coming into the industry, and maybe Nerida, I'll direct this to you, what are kind of some, like, would you encourage designers to like go to the event, go to the new rug launch or the fabric display or whatever it is kind of thing, and you might think, it's not that important, or I can just kind of see it online, but would you say that it's a really important thing for designers who are entering the industry to do?
100%. I think, you need to keep your supplier knowledge up to date, go to those things anyway. But I think probably for me, the thing that made the biggest difference and made it most easy was doing a couple of those kind of longer form events. So when I first started out, I signed up to a lot of things. The retreat we talked about in Byron, but also some other kind of weekly group mentoring support networks. And I found that they were really important to get over that initial superficial chit chat. And for me, those things made turning up to that 1 hour supplier meeting here and there that much easier, because you kind of break through that initial chit chat to a point where you actually feel like you have more of a relationship with another designer, or you know a little bit more about their business, and you can actually start to have some more meaningful conversations. So 100%, I think all of those supplier events, and there are a lot of them, and I found that with this industry, different to the other industry I've worked in, there are so many opportunities to get out and meet with other designers, and I take advantage of as many of those as I can. But it is some of those, those longer form opportunities that I think for me were the breakthrough in really helping me feel like I was more a part of the industry.
And I think that is part of it. Like, as you said, Anna, like imposter syndrome comes in when you first start. And I think it all helps, especially if you might not have that many clients when you first start. I think gaining confidence from whatever it is, and whether it's, you go to an industry event and you learn something, so the next time you're talking to a potential client, you've got that extra bit of knowledge to kind of, tap into. I think that's all really kind of important to think of, especially in those early days of your business. So we've talked about kind of lots of positive things about business. What are some of the ways you support each other when you're going through challenging parts in your business, whether it's a really quiet time or challenging client, which we've all had, or, a builder that's making life a bit painful? What are some of the ways you support each other when you're going through those harder times in business? Donna?
I think the best thing about it is just knowing you can pick up the phone. And it doesn't matter where anybody's at or what's happening, the other person is there and is going to be able to go, give me a minute, or I'll call you back in 10 and let's talk through this. Sometimes it's advice, sometimes it's moral support, sometimes it's just an ear. And often that can be all you need to kind of get out of your own head and go, okay, stress levels come down. I can think through this more clearly. Thank you. I know what I need to do now. And it's the world of difference because, sometimes you just sit at your desk and you either end up in a little bit of a brain swirl going 12 different directions at the same time and you don't know which way to go, or you sit and you overthink something that you should be able to make a decision on in 10 minutes and an hour later and you're still weighing things up, when all you need to do is pick up the phone or shoot an email off to somebody and they go, well, here's my 2 cents worth, blah, blah, blah. And then you know exactly where to move forward. And you've short-circuited spending a lot of time that you didn't need to spend to move yourself to that next step.
Nerida, what about you?
I think it's also, I think over the last few years, we've sort of got to know each other and each other's businesses relatively well. And I think what I've found really useful is just the ability of the other girls to reflect back who you are and what your business is. So when you start to doubt yourself sometimes, having them almost as a little bit of a mirror to go, I think that's not you, or that's not right for you, is incredibly helpful, because as Donna said, sometimes we can get so caught up in our own head and overthinking things that ability just to have someone reflect back is really helpful.
And Anna, what about you?
All of the above. I think, as Donna said, to get out of your own head and Nerida too, is really important. Sometimes it is just that quick email to say, this is the problem I'm having, or, whatever the crisis is that's going on, and someone might have a really quick solution that just is like, oh, fabulous. Or it just helps you reset and go, actually, if it's a client-related issue, how to maybe respond to it in a different way than what you were thinking, and just to cut through the emotion that you might be feeling when someone else is hearing that situation. They don't have the emotional response that you're feeling, and sometimes you can't get out of the way of your feelings to deal with it in a more timely manner. And that when you're working in this industry and you've got so many projects on the go and competing priorities, being able to navigate through those challenges more quickly and smoothly is really helpful, rather than getting into that spiral that can happen very
easily, isn't it? It's like it's one of those industries, like design is so subjective, and clients are so invested in what they're doing. It is sometimes hard to detach the emotional part of it.
And we're so vested too, right? Because this is our creative energy's gone into this, and if someone responds in a way, yes. So it is a very emotionally charged,
and
passionate space that we're operating.
Understand that, sometimes they're not the best sounding board, so you need someone who Yeah.
Or the builder who's got great design ideas.
Oh yes, yes, we all know the tradie who is a slash designer as well. So you guys went on the almost ultimate designer girls trip earlier this year through Milan, fueled by Negronis and pasta, I think. Tell me about, like, there would be so many designers who are like, oh my goodness, that is awesome. Like, how do you get to the point where you do that kind of thing? How do you guys, like, are they kind of milestones that you go, this is really kind of like the ultimate that we can do and fill our creative cup? Like, how much do you love doing those kind of really immersive trips?
Beth, this is our second tour of duty, actually, because we went last year. And I can't remember where it started, whether it was Donna or I or jointly, but both sort of said, oh, wouldn't that be fun? And there was the design coach in Melbourne, Andrew Mitchell, was taking a group, and Donna and I basically decided, hey, wouldn't that be great? And why not running your own business, let's make sure we're getting inspiration wherever we can. Let's wrap the trip into it. And this was an organised trip, so we thought, what a great way to do it. And then Nerida, of course, was like, well, hang on, this sounds like too much fun. I need to be part of this.
After Byron, I kept getting there's one ticket left emails from the design coach, and I just rang the girls one day and said, I've done it, I'm coming too.
Yeah, like, you've got to, you cannot miss this with us. And so the three of us went last year as part of a group, and then did a little bit before and a little bit after, on our, the three of us together. So I think that cemented the friendship further, and go, wow, we're actually managed to travel really well together and are still great friends and business supports, which is pretty unique. Yeah. So after that, we rebooked for the following. We were first like, oh, meet every second or third year. Can't possibly make it every year. That would be a bit extravagant. And then soon after that trip went, oh gosh, we need to do this again. So we organised our own trip.
Tell me a little bit about what you love about the Milan experience, because I know for some designers, it's like the pinnacle to get there kind of thing, where a lot of other designers are like, I don't know if it's that relevant to us here in Australia. What makes you, what made you kind of turn around and book the second trip almost, as soon as you'd gotten home kind of thing?
I think it depends what you're looking for when you go over. And I think if you take a sort of a literal view of, well, a lot of the brands that are showing over at the fair aren't necessarily available in Australia, or they are available in Australia, but they don't reflect my client base, then at that very practical level, Milan might not appeal to everybody. But I think there is so much more to Milan than just that. And I think for me, it is just the creative energy in the city during that week, which is completely infectious and is what I feel like I've become a little bit addicted to. Because it's not just interiors companies and furniture companies, but it's becoming such a mecca for any creative industry, whether it's fashion houses or car brands, that the entire city is like one amazing immersive art experience that I just don't think there's anything else like it. And to go,
and then you just layer in Italy as well, which is just we were getting as excited about the terrazzo floors that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So,
Donna, what about you?
And I think it is an immersive experience. So it's unlike attending a trade fair here, which is purely feels more transactional. You go, you see some beautiful product and stands, and then you come back and you may have taken away with you some new suppliers or some new products that you'd like to integrate into future designs. Being in Milan, it is 24/7 of inspiration, energy, excitement, and just opening new horizons. And it's, for me, very hard to describe what that feeling and that sort of excitement is. It's interesting, one of your prior guests, Gavin Hepper, I had spoke to him before the first trip, and he had said to me, he said the first time he went to Milan, he said he came back and his design practice and approach changed completely. He said it was that significant for him in terms of what he saw and experienced to how he then designed and moved forward. And that was the one key for me that went, I have to go. So that prompted the first trip. And I think, the first trip lived up to everything that Gavin had said. So as Anna mentioned, when we were there, we were thinking, oh, you'd probably do this every 2 to 3 years. And you thought, there's almost now this fear of missing out.
Yeah.
It's too exciting not to go.
And I think in terms of what I brought back from the fair, because Nerida's right, at a literal level, it's not necessarily as relevant for my client base, but my sense of confidence in my own design has grown. So I've come back feeling more courageous to use colour or to add in extra detail that you might not think of doing. So it's just elevated in small iterations, things that maybe I would have done eventually, but I just think it helps push you to think about things slightly differently and go, well, why not try this? And and give you the confidence.
Even looking at the amazing furniture designs over there, and you might notice a little detail of how they join the stone and the cabinetry, and you bring that back and you apply that to your joinery design. So even if it is not, you're not going over there to purchase furniture, you're still picking up incredible design details everywhere you go, how they use stone, next level. So I think there is so much inspiration that you get there that's beyond just a trade show.
And I think it is that kind of, as we were talking about before, it's almost like it's the ultimate kind of designer event where you really just grow your knowledge base as a designer. And it might take you 3 or 4 years to have the right project and the right client to use that detail, but that's really how you become a better designer, like having that, really just immersing yourself in, all of that inspiration. So I'm assuming then you've got trip for next year booked and ready to go.
100%.
Indeed.
I love it.
Tick that one.
So tell me briefly, what are you all looking forward to in your businesses over the next 12 months? Anna, I'll start with you.
Well, I'd say that the first thing I'm most looking forward to is Milan in April 2025. I think in terms of it from a business perspective, I'm in a group coaching program, and so I'm really looking to keep growing the business, enhancing the processes, driving the value within what I offer so that I can, attract larger projects. And so I'm really looking forward to, I guess, implementing those iterative steps to help keep the business growing and feeling like there's a freshness to it, because it's very easy to sometimes just hit that little rut of a bit stale with similar size projects, similar look and feel, and that's great for a bit, but for me that next sort of level of excitement is okay, those next, just pushing the evolution of both my design and my business.
Yeah, awesome. And I love, systems and processes are the hill that I'll die on, but I love that you just really were like, you can see that the connection between having those strong systems and processes and, it's not just kind of hoping that the next project will come along or the next pushing your business to the next thing. You can really see that it's those systems and processes and having those in place. That is what's going to get you to that next level.
Yeah, I think it does. And I think it's, it's like putting it out there, you then attract that, it's like the friendship that we've got, you start to attract like. So where do you want to position yourself and how do you attract that? Is a bit of the mentality
Donna, what
that I
about you?
take.
Well, like Anna, it has to be Milan, take 3. Planning for that has started already. Outside of that, for my business, I am looking to continue to deepen the relationships that I've got with clients. I've got a nice roster of repeat and referral clients that I enjoy working with, and through that really continuing to challenge my design aesthetic and growing the confidence and the creativity to push clients outside of what might be considered the comfort zone. I think we're in an interesting stage in the industry at the moment. There has been some contraction. There is still work out there, and I think the clients that we're able to attract and work with that are keen to engage a designer are also the type of clients that we can push the boundaries with a little bit more, and I'm looking to do that within the scope of the work that we do.
Awesome. And Nerida, what about you?
I agree with all of that. I think for me, having a relatively young studio, I've still got a very long to-do list of process improvements and client experience improvements and marketing improvements. So I think for me, for the next 12 months, it's just continuing to roll those out, continuing to elevate my design work, continuing to elevate my client experience, and just working on all of those things as best as I can whilst juggling some really nice client projects as well. So I've got a nice mix of more decorative jobs and more renovation jobs sort of coming over the next few months. So looking forward to those. And of course, Milan.
Oh, that sounds awesome. You all sound like you've got a busy 12 months ahead, really kind of growing your businesses, which is awesome. And of course, Milan to look forward to. Thank you so much for joining me, ladies. I have thoroughly enjoyed our chat.
It's been great, Beth.
You'll have to join us for a Negroni next time, Beth.
I will. I'm definitely wanting a Negroni with you girls.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.